On our 10th anniversary, my husband stood up in front of both our families and handed me divorce papers. Everyone thought I would cry. Instead, I smiled, because the signature on the papers wasn't his. It was mine, and I had never signed them. Daniel said coldly, "You finally got what you wanted." I stared at the document, then at the woman sitting beside him, my husband's pregnant mistress, my best friend, and the woman who had spent the last 3 years calling me sister. I slowly picked up my wineglass, said, "You really should have checked the last page." His smile vanished, because beneath the forged signature was a date from 6 months ago, the day I had supposedly been unconscious in the hospital. The room went silent. Friend, Vanessa, suddenly looked sick, and Daniel's lawyer dropped his fork. I turned the page. There was one more thing, a bank account number, a very familiar bank account number, Daniel's secret account, the one he had told me did not exist. I looked straight into his eyes. "You've been planning my divorce for 6 months." He swallowed. I smiled. "But you made one mistake." "What?" "You forgot that I was the one who taught you how to hide money." The first glass shattered before anyone could answer, crashed backward. "That's impossible," I looked at her. "Is it?" She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was, because the woman she had spent years humiliating was no longer the same woman who had quietly swallowed every insult. Cross's wife. I had attended his charity dinners, smiled beside him at corporate events, remembered his mother's birthday, raised his daughter from a previous marriage, signed his business contracts, covered his debts. Daniel had built Crosswell Holdings alone. They were wrong. I had built the foundation. He had simply put his name on it, and for 10 years I had never complained. Until 6 months ago. 6 months ago I discovered that my husband was stealing from me, not from our household, not from the company, from a trust my father had left me before he died. $32 million. Every month another transfer. Small enough to hide, large enough to matter. The money wasn't going into Daniel's personal account. It was going somewhere else, a company called Belmont Advisory. I had never heard of Belmont, so I hired an auditor. 3 days later, the auditor disappeared. 2 days after that, someone broke into my house. They didn't steal jewelry, they didn't touch the safe. They took one folder, my father's old estate, ports. That was when I realized this wasn't just an affair. Someone wasn't trying to steal my money. Someone was trying to erase something. And Daniel was only one piece of it. So I pretended not to notice. I kissed my husband goodnight. I smiled at Vanessa, congratulated her on her pregnancy. Then I started digging. The deeper I went, the stranger everything became. Belmont Advisory owned 3 shell companies. Those firms had contracts with Crosswell Holdings, and every contract had been approved by the same man, Daniel's father, Edward Cross, a man who had supposedly been dead for 9 years. I found his name buried in an old corporate filing. I thought it was a mistake. Then I found his signature. Then I found, standing outside a private clinic, beside him was my father. Both men were alive. Both men were smiling, and between them stood a woman I recognized immediately, my mother, the woman who had told me my father died penniless after losing everything. Edward Cross was a criminal, the woman who had spent 10 years warning me never to trust the Cross family. I stared at the photograph until my hands went numb. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice said, "You should stop looking." I asked, "Who is this?" Laughed. "Someone who knows what happened to your father." My heart stopped. "What happened to him?" "You've been told the wrong story. Tell me the right one." Silence. "Then, ask your husband why your father paid for his education." The call ended. Sleeping. Or pretending to. I walked toward him. He opened his eyes. "What's wrong?" I smiled. "Nothing." He smiled back. That was the moment I knew. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. The next morning, Daniel kissed my forehead. "I'll be home late." Another meeting. With Vanessa. He froze, just for half a second. Then he laughed. Don't start. I wasn't. I smiled. Have a good day. He left. I waited exactly 5 minutes. Then I opened the hidden compartment beneath his desk. The key was taped under the drawer. Inside was a second phone. From Edward, the wife knows. Daniel had replied, "Not yet." My stomach turned. I took photographs of everything. Then another message arrived. "Instincts, it's about the affair." I stared at the screen. Then another message. From Edward, "Good. Keep her angry." Anger makes people careless. I put the phone down. My husband had never been afraid of me discovering his affair. He wanted me to discover it. That was the first real twist. The mistress was bait. They wanted me angry. They wanted me emotional. They wanted me to sign something. I didn't know what yet, so I decided to play along. That evening, I walked into our bedroom carrying a suitcase. Daniel looked up. "What's that?" "I'm leaving." His expression barely changed. "Where are you going?" "Anywhere you want." He stood. "Lena," I threw the divorce papers onto the bed. "You wanted this." He stared at them, then at me. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious." For the first time, he looked nervous. That wasn't what I expected. Laughed. "Why?" "Because you don't understand what you're signing." That sentence stayed with me. I stepped closer. "What am I signing?" He didn't answer. "Daniel," he looked away. "Just trust me." I almost laughed. "After everything, Father left instructions." My heart stopped. "What instructions?" Daniel looked toward the bedroom door, then lowered his voice. He knew this would happen. What would happen? "Your marriage." I stared at him. "My father knew I'd marry you." "No." Daniel shook his head. "He knew you'd eventually try to leave me." I felt a chill. "Why?" He didn't answer. Instead, he took out a small envelope. He handed it to me. "Don't open this until you're alone." I waited until he left. Then I opened it. Inside was a photograph of my father. Daughter. I read it again, then again. My father's handwriting was unmistakable. But what did it mean? I turned the photograph over. There was another photograph behind it. This one showed me I was 23, standing outside a courthouse. Beside me was Daniel. We weren't married yet, but someone had taken the picture before we had even met officially. I stared at the date. 7 years before our wedding. That was impossible. Daniel had claimed he first met me at a charity event. The photograph proved he had known me long before that. Noticed someone else in the picture. My father. He was watching us. And he was holding a folder. The folder had the same symbol as Belmont Advisory. I immediately called my mother's old lawyer. He didn't answer. I called again. Still nothing. Then I received a text. "Do not call me." Again, I asked, "Why?" The reply came instantly. "BQS, they are listening." I looked around my house. Suddenly, every smoke detector looked suspicious. Every camera, every speaker, every light. I unplugged everything. Then I heard footsteps outside, toward my front door. I grabbed a kitchen knife. The door opened. Vanessa walked in. She was crying. I lowered the knife. "What do you want?" She shut the door behind her. "I need to tell you the truth." I almost laughed. "About the baby." She shook her head. "That's not my baby." My blood ran. Cold. "What?" She placed a hand on her stomach. "I was never pregnant." I stared at her. "Then why did you say?" "Because Daniel told me to." I took a step back. "Why?" She looked terrified. "Because we needed you to believe I was carrying his child." "Why?" "I don't know." "Don't lie to me." "I swear." She grabbed my arm. "Lena, I thought it was about the divorce. I thought he wanted you gone. What changed?" She started crying harder. "Someone tried to kill me." My expression changed. "Who?" "I don't know." She pulled out her phone. "Look." A photograph appeared. Parked outside her apartment. The license plate was blurred, but I recognized the vehicle. It belonged to Daniel. I looked at her. "You said someone tried to kill you." She nodded. "Daniel was there. My stomach dropped. Then why are you alive? The one who came to kill me. A knock sounded on the door. We both froze. 3 slow knocks. Vanessa whispered, "Don't answer." The knocking came again. Then a man's voice. "Mrs. Cross." "Police." I opened the door. 2 officers stood outside. "Are you Lena Cross?" "Yes." "You need to come with us." "Why?" One officer looked at Vanessa. "Your husband reported that she attacked you." I stared at him. "What?" Vanessa stepped backward. "I didn't do anything." The officer reached for his handcuffs. I laughed. "From where?" "Your home." I looked at the camera. Above the hallway. It was supposed to be disconnected. The light was still blinking. I turned back. "Who sent the footage?" The officer hesitated, then said, "Your husband's attorney." Everything became clear. Against me. The affair was a distraction. The pregnancy was bait. The forged divorce papers were part of a larger plan. And now he wanted me arrested. I stepped toward the officer. "You have the wrong woman." He reached for my wrist. Before he could touch me, Vanessa screamed. I grabbed her hand. We bolted through the back door. We ran across the garden. Over the fence, through an alley. I had never run so fast in my life. Behind us, police shouted. Vanessa stumbled. I pulled her up. "Why did you help me?" she gasped. "Because I finally realized what Daniel, what's doing." "What?" "He wasn't trying to get rid of you." "Then what?" She looked at me. "He's trying to make you legally insane." I stopped. "What?" "If they prove you're unstable, your father's trust goes to the person listed as your legal guardian." I felt the blood leave my face. "Who, Vanessa?" Didn't answer. I already knew. "Daniel." She nodded. "But that's not the worst part." "What is?" She looked over her shoulder. "Your father named a second guardian." "Who?" She whispered. "Edward Cross." I laughed. "No. Yes. My father hated him." "No." Vanessa shook her head. "Your father and Edward weren't enemies." She looked directly at me. "They were partners. We hid in an abandoned office building. For 3 hours we said almost nothing. Then Vanessa told me everything she knew. He told her my marriage was ending. He told her I was mentally unstable. He promised her a house, money, a future. She believed him. Then he told her to fake the pregnancy. She agreed. But 6 weeks ago, she discovered something in Daniel's files, a photograph of a little girl aged 9. The girl looked exactly like me. Stared at the photograph. "Who is she?" Vanessa shook her head. "I don't know." "Where did you find it?" "In Daniel's safe." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because Daniel caught me." "What happened?" "He told me the girl was dead." I looked at the photograph again. The girl was wearing a necklace. Silver Star. I knew that necklace. My father had given me one exactly like it when I was a child. I remembered because I had lost it when I was 10. Or so I thought. I touched the photograph. She's alive. Because that's not a necklace. What? It's a key. I suddenly remembered my father's old house. There had been a locked room upstairs. I had been forbidden to enter it. When I was 12, I once asked my father what was inside. He said, "Something that belongs to you." I had forgotten about it. Until now. We drove there that night. The house had been abandoned for years. The windows were boarded. The garden was dead. I found the old key hidden beneath a stone. The door upstairs opened. Inside was a child's bedroom. Mine. But it looked untouched. Toys, books, was a photograph. Me, and the little girl. I stared. We looked almost identical. Underneath the picture was a handwritten sentence. TWO. One inheritance. I felt dizzy. Vanessa whispered, "You have a sister." I shook my head. My mother told me I was an only child. Mother lied. I searched the room. Inside a desk drawer, I found medical records. 2 birth certificates. Both girls, born 3 minutes apart. Same parents. Same hospital. Same day. My name was Lena. The other girl was named Lily. Stat at the word. Dead. But someone had circled it in red. Underneath was another note. Natrielway. A floorboard creaked. Vanan stood in the doorway, old, gray-haired, holding a cane. I recognized him. Edward Cross, Daniel's, supposedly dead father. He smiled. "You found the room." I grabbed a fireplace poker. "Stay away from me." He raised both hands. "I didn't come to hurt you." "Then why are you here?" "Because your father is about to kill your husband." I froze. "What?" Edward looked at Vanessa. "You brought her." "Here." Vanessa nodded. Edward sighed. "Then there's no more time." He walked into the room. "You think Daniel is the villain?" "He isn't?" "No." "Then why did he betray me? Because he was ordered to?" "By whom?" Edward looked at the photograph of me and Lily. "Your father." I stared at him. "Why?" Edward's expression hardened. "Because only one daughter could inherit the trust." My heart pounded. "Why?" "Because the trust wasn't money." I looked at him. "Then what was it?" Edward said. "Control of control." "Of what?" He looked at me. "Crosswell Holdings." I laughed. "That makes no sense." "It will." He took a folder from his coat. Inside were corporate documents. The ownership structure of Crosswell Holdings. I read the first page, then the second, then the third. My name appeared everywhere. I looked at Edward. "This says, I own 71%. "Yes, but Daniel runs the company because you signed control over to him." "When?" "On your wedding day." I remembered. There had been a prenuptial agreement. I had signed it without reading every page. My father had told me it was standard. I suddenly felt, what did I actually sign? Edward answered quietly. "You gave Daniel temporary control of your inheritance." "For how long?" "Until your 30th birthday." I stared at him. "My 30th birthday was 6 months ago." "Yes." "And?" Edward's face darkened. "You were supposed to take—" I understood. Daniel's betrayal hadn't started because he stopped loving me. It started because my birthday arrived. He needed me legally incapacitated before I could take back the company. I looked at Vanessa. "And the divorce? Your assets? The pregnancy? To make you look unstable and violent? The forged signature? To transfer everything before the court realized you were competent?" Edward nodded. "And the criminal case? To remove you from the board?" I felt a strange calm settle over me. I had thought I was losing my marriage. I wasn't. I was being robbed. And now I knew exactly what they wanted, so I asked the question that mattered. "Where is Lily?" Edward looked away. "I don't know." "Don't lie." "I haven't seen her in 18 years. "She's alive." "Yes." "Where?" He hesitated, then said, "Inside Crosswell." I stared. "What does that mean?" "She has been working there for years." I felt a chill. "Under what name?" Edward's eyes met mine. Crying, I looked at her. "No," she whispered. "I didn't know. You're Lily?" She nodded. My entire world cracked open. My best friend. My husband's mistress, the woman I had hated for 6 months, my sister. She took the silver star necklace from beneath her blouse. "I was told you died when we were children." I stared at her. "Who told you?" She started crying. "Daniel." I stepped backward. Everything was collapsing into something bigger. Daniel hadn't recruited my best friend. He had found my sister. He had used both of us. But why? Before I could ask, Edward's phone rang. He answered. His face changed. "What?" He listened. "Found us. Gunfire erupted outside." Edward shoved us toward the hidden basement. "Go." We ran. The basement contained a tunnel leading beneath the old estate. Someone had built an entire escape route under the house. Walls above us. Lily grabbed my hand. I knew something was wrong with Daniel. When? The day he told me to seduce you. I stopped. "You didn't know I was your sister?" "Yes." "Then why did you hate me?" She looked ashamed. "Because he told me you destroyed our family." I stared at her. Our family. He said your father chose you. I remembered the photographed 2 daughters. One inheritance. The hatred suddenly made sense. Daniel had spent years turning us against each other. To do it. We reached the end of the tunnel. A steel door opened. A car waited. Edward climbed into the driver's seat. Where are we going? To the only person who can prove your father is alive. I stared at him. My father. Edward nodded. Your father isn't dead. Again. Another impossible. Truth. I was beginning to hate those words. Where is he? Edward looked at me in the mirror. In prison. I laughed. My father has been dead for 11 years. No. Edward shook his head. Your mother forged his death certificate. Why? To hide what he did. What did he do? Edward didn't answer. Lily suddenly spoke. He murdered someone. I turned. Who? She looked terrified. Daniel's first wife. The car went silent. I stared at her. Daniel was married before me? Edward nodded. She died 9 years ago? How? Car accident. She left him. He had never said she died. I felt sick. Why didn't I know? Edward answered. Because you weren't supposed to. The deeper truth was becoming uglier by the minute. My husband had a dead first wife. My father was secretly alive. My mother had forged records, being turned against me, and an entire corporate empire was built around a trust I didn't even understand. We drove through the night. At dawn, Edward took us to an old courthouse. A woman was waiting inside. She looked familiar, very familiar. Mother, she smiled. Lena, I stepped back. You're supposed to be dead, she laughed. Apparently everyone in this family is. She handed me a file. Read it. Inside was Daniel's original birth certificate. His father's name wasn't Edward Cross, it was my father. Nodded. Daniel is your half-brother. I couldn't speak. Lily began crying. The woman continued. Your father had 2 families. She looked at me, and he built Crosswell Holdings for all 3 children. I felt like I was drowning. 3, she nodded. Lena, Lily, and Daniel, I looked at. Edward. He lowered his head. You knew. Yes. Daniel knew. Yes. Then why did he marry me? Edward's answer was barely audible. Because he didn't know you were his sister. I turned toward Daniel's mother. She said, your father erased the truth from everyone. Why? Because one child was meant to inherit. Which one? She smiled sadly. You. I stared. Then why did everyone keep trying to stop me? Because your father changed his mind. Why? She looked toward the courthouse doors. Because Danya discovered the real secret. What secret? She whispered. Your father never created the trust for you. She paused. He created it for someone else. Who? She looked at Lily. Lily froze. The child your father believed was dead. My sister stared at her. Me. The woman nodded. You were supposed to inherit everything. I looked at Lily, then at myself, then at the documents. The entire family had been fighting over an inheritance, but nobody knew who the true heir was. And Daniel had spent years keeping us apart because he didn't know which sister had the stronger claim. Then my phone rang. Answered. His voice was calm. You found out. I looked at Lily. Where are you? At home. Why? Because I knew you'd eventually come here. Who are you really? He laughed softly. You are, did you marry me? I didn't know. You knew about Lily. Yes, you lied to both of us. I was trying to keep you alive. You stole from me. I moved the money. Where? Somewhere safe. Why? Because your father is coming for it. My father is in prison, Daniel laughed. No, he paused. He's coming for you. The call ended. A second later. Every television in the courthouse switched on. A live broadcast appeared. My father was standing outside the prison, surrounded by reporters. He looked directly into the camera, then he said, my daughter has stolen everything that belongs to her sister. I stared at the Baidafi. Lily whispered, he's lying. My father smiled. I want my daughter brought home. Then the screen changed. A photograph appeared. It showed me standing beside Daniel, holding a newborn baby. the same photograph I had seen before. In the room, my father, and he was holding a gun. The caption underneath read, "The night Lena killed her first child. I couldn't breathe. I never had a child." Daniel's voice came through the television. "You did." The screen went black. I looked at Edward. "What is he talking about?" Edward looked devastated. Then he said, "Because this is the part I never wanted you to remember." He opened another file. Inside was a hospital record. My name. Daniel's name. A baby of my wedding. I stared. That can't be right. Edward shook his head. "Your wedding wasn't 10 years ago." I looked at him. "It was." "No." He pointed to the document. "You were married 11 years ago." My memory shattered. For the first time, I couldn't trust my own mind. The wedding, the anniversary, Daniel, Lily, the baby, the crash, everything was moving. Everything was wrong. Edward whispered, "You have been living the same lie for 10 years. I looked at the hospital record again. Then I saw the final line. Patient memory alteration. Successful. I felt cold all over. Who authorized it? Edward didn't answer. I already knew. Father, my mother, Daniel, and maybe even me. Then another document slipped from the file, a consent form. My signature. I read the sentence. I had voluntarily agreed to have my memory altered. I stared at my own handwriting. Underneath it was one sentence. Procedure to protect my family. I started shaking. Lily grabbed my hand. "Lena." I looked at her. "I did this." "What?" "I asked them to erase my memory." Daniel's voice echoed in my head. I had been wrong about everything. He hadn't started the conspiracy. He had inherited it. The affair. Divorce. The money. The fake pregnancy. The criminal charges, all of it had been built around a secret I had once chosen to forget. But one question remained. What had happened that was so terrible I had willingly erased 10 years of my own life? Before anyone could answer. The courthouse doors burst open. Daniel walked in. He was covered in blood. Behind him were 3 armed men. He looked at me, then at Lily, then at Edward. Everybody down. My heart stopped. He wasn't here to arrest me. He wasn't here to threaten me. He was running from someone. A black SUV crashed through the courthouse entrance. Daniel fired. Glass exploded. Edward pulled Lily behind a pillar. I dropped to the floor. The shooting lasted less than 30 seconds. Then silence. One attacker lay dead. Another escaped. Daniel grabbed my arm. "We have to go." I pulled away. "No, Lena. Tell me what happened 10 years ago." His face changed. "You're not ready." "I am." "No, I remember enough." "You don't." "Then make me remember." He stared at me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "You killed our father." I froze. "You said my father was." "Alive." "He is." "Then who did I kill?" Daniel looked at Lily. "Our real father." I couldn't breathe. "You mean Edward?" "No." He shook his head. "The man who created Crosswell. The man in prison." "Yes." I stared. "Then why does he want me?" "Remember what?" He leaned close. "You didn't erase your memory to protect us." He swallowed. "You erased it because you were the one who ordered the murder." I stared at him. "That isn't possible." Daniel whispered, "You killed the wrong man." The courthouse lights suddenly went out. Gunshot echoed. Daniel collapsed. Blood spread across his shirt. I screamed. Lily grabbed me. "Daniel." He looked up. His lips moved. I crawled toward him. "What?" He whispered. "Run." "Who shot you?" He looked behind me. I turned. My mother stood in the doorway, holding a gun. She smiled. Finally, she raised the weapon. "You remember." The gun fired. And the last thing I heard before everything went black was my mother's voice. "You were never the victim, Lena. You were the architect." I woke up in a hospital. Daniel was missing. Lily was missing. Edward was missing. My mother was gone. And the television was showing my face. The headline read, "Billionaire Hire. Haitius wanted for 3 murders." I stared at the screen. 3 murders. I didn't remember killing anyone. Television changed. A video started playing. It showed me 10 years earlier, standing in a room. Holding a gun, my father was on the floor. Daniel was beside me. Lily was crying, and I was saying, "Tonight we end this." The video stopped. I whispered, "No." Then someone entered my hospital room, a woman in a black suit. She sat beside me. "I represent your father's estate." I laughed. "My father is alive." She smiled. "Yes." She handed me a folder. "He wants to see you." "Why?" "He says you owe him a debt." "What debt?" She opened the folder. Daniel, Lily, and me, all standing together. But the photograph wasn't 10 years old. It was taken yesterday. I stared at the date, yesterday. That meant my father had been with us, watching the entire time. What? He didn't build Crosswell Holdings? I looked at her. He inherited it. From whom? She smiled. From you. I felt the room spin. Then she placed one final document on my lap. A transfer agreement signed by me, dated 11 years ago. I had transferred every asset, every company, every account, every voting right to an unknown beneficiary. The beneficiary's name was hidden beneath a black strip. I pulled it away. There was only one word. Mother. I looked up. The lawyer was gone. The door was locked. The television turned on again. My mother appeared on the She looked directly at me. "Now," she said, "you are finally ready for the second half." I stared at her. "What second half?" She smiled. "The first half was making you believe Daniel betrayed you." The screen went black. Then one final sentence appeared. "When your husband comes back." I sat alone in the hospital room. The cuffs around my wrists suddenly didn't matter anymore, because for the first time I wasn't thinking about my marriage. I wasn't thinking about revenge. The one question nobody had answered: why had I willingly erased my own memory? And why did every person who claimed to love me seem terrified of the woman I used to be? Outside the room, footsteps approached. The door opened. Daniel walked in. Alive. His shirt was stained with blood that wasn't his. He locked the door behind him. Then he placed a small black box on my bed. "Lena." I stared at him. "What?" He looked exhausted. "Before you decide whether you hate me." He opened the box. Inside was my wedding ring. Years. This one had an inscription inside. I read it. "For the woman who remembers." My hands started shaking. Daniel sat beside me. "You were my enemy." He paused. "And I was yours." The hospital lights flickered. Then he said the sentence that changed everything again. "We didn't marry because we loved each other." He looked into my eyes. "We married because we made a deal." "What deal?" His voice broke. "We promised to destroy our parents." I stared at him. "And then?" He smiled sadly. "Did you?" "Yes." "Then why did you betray me?" "I didn't." "Then why did you make me hate you?" He looked down. "Because you told me to." I couldn't speak. "You told me that if you ever forgot the truth, I had to become the villain." "Why?" "Because you knew they would come for you." "Who?" He looked toward the window. "The people who own the bank." "The board?" "No." "The government?" "No." "Then who?" He leaned closer. "The family that owned your father's family." I frowned. "What does that mean?" Daniel whispered. "Your father wasn't the beginning. He was the end. And the people behind him have been, waiting for you to remember." I looked at the black box. Inside the lid was another message. "My daughter must never know the truth." I recognized the handwriting. "Mine." I stared at Daniel. "I wrote this." "Yes." "When?" "2 days before our wedding." I felt my heart pounding. What did I know? Daniel took a breath. "You knew the marriage was a trap. You knew someone would try to kill you. You knew Lily was alive. You knew your father was watching. And you knew." He stopped. "What?" He looked at me. "You knew the baby wasn't dead." My eyes filled with tears. "What baby?" "Answer." He opened the hospital room door. A little girl stood outside. She was about 10 years old. She had my eyes. Daniel looked at her, then at me. The girl stepped into the room. She looked at me for several seconds, then whispered, "Mom?" Powell reached for her. But before our fingers touched, the lights went out. A scream came from the hallway. When the emergency lights came on, the girl was gone. So was Daniel. The window was open. And on the glass was a message written in lipstick. "Never find her." I sat frozen. Then I smiled, not because I was happy, because something inside me had finally broken. The obedient wife, the forgiving daughter, the loyal sister, the woman who had spent 10 years letting everyone else tell her what was true, she was gone. I pulled the IV from my arm. I stood. I walked to the window, and I whispered, "Fine, if you want the woman I used to be." I looked at my reflection. "Then I'll become her, but not tonight. Tonight I had one thing to find, my daughter. And before I could save her, I needed to uncover the conspiracy that had swallowed my entire marriage. Because Daniel had been right about one thing, the affair was never the story, the divorce was never the story. Even my marriage wasn't the story. They had spent 10 years fighting over one, me, and somewhere in the city, someone who looked exactly like me was waiting. Someone who knew the truth, someone who remembered what I had forgotten, someone who had been watching my marriage from the beginning. My mother, my father, my sister, my husband had lied. But the biggest lie was still hidden, and I was finally ready to find it.